To persist or walk away? That is the question. And some of you might be asking it of yourselves at this very moment in time. To persist or give up, walk away. It's not worth it. I can't be doing with this anymore. I've tried, but phew. But hang on a minute. How do you make that decision? Well, this episode might help because I'm also trying to make a decision myself, and I'll tell you what that's about in a little while. But it might help because we're going to look at the definition of persistence and giving up, if you like, or walking away. And what are the red flags and what are the green flags to be looking for when you're trying to make this decision? Let me start by going way back in time. In 1934, under the column entitled Words of Wisdom, which was on page 7 of the Lurgan Mail, an Irish newspaper. Now, there was a lot going on in 1934, but somebody had written this under Words of Wisdom and under the heading Perseverance, which is what this podcast is all about. Let's see how they defined it. Let's see what these words of wisdom were. Perseverance. The habit of giving up easily is one that does not need to be cultivated. It grows of itself. The people who cannot be expected to persevere through any hardship are round us on every hand and, wait for this, are utterly unconscious of their pitiful weakness. Well, you're glad I didn't put on an Irish accent there, aren't you? But maybe you can go back in time and imagine those words being spoken. Let's not be quite so harsh on ourselves. If we're giving up on something, it doesn't necessarily mean we are displaying pitiful weakness, does it? It could, in fact, be a sign of us being incredibly wise and courageous. There's a twist. So let's explore. Let's look at those green and red flags, and let's maybe help you, me, to make a decision. To give up or to persevere. This is Self-Belief Unsquashed, and I am your host, Trisha Lewis, and I am very human, and I have moments where I sink into a sort of sense of self-doubt and potentially give up on things that I shouldn't give up on, or stick with things that I shouldn't stick with because I've kind of lost my way. So I told you I'd share with you what I want to make a decision about, and this is it. It's kind of relevant. Do I continue with this podcast or not? Do I continue with it under its current name? Do I change the name? Do I shift the branding a little bit? Do I get more precise about the audience? Or do I completely wrap it up at episode 192? And do I start another one, a completely different one, or not at all? Are podcasts, for me, a thing of the past? So, see, told you it'd be relevant. But you might be making a decision on anything that is to do with work, to do with relationships, potentially, to do with goals and purpose. We keep being told we have to have a goal, but are you pursuing a goal for the best reasons, or is it time to walk away? Time to create new goals? Time to explore, or time to persist? Oh, well, let's just start this episode, shall we? Here we go. So that sense of you must persevere used to be very much hammered home at school, of course. I mean, maybe it still is, I suppose, but it's slightly more compassionate, I hope, these days, but it was absolutely everything back in the day, even when I was at school, which was not quite the Victorian era. So I've got another couple of little snippets from the newspaper archives, one here from 1862, Dorset County Chronicle. Now, this was under the heading Waifs and Strays, 1862. The secret of doing things well and the only way by which they can be accomplished is perseverance, the want of which has been the ruin of many, for they fall into indolence. If you're not persevering, you're useless, you're pitiful, you're lazy. Come on, get a grip. Or what about this, 1873? This was school prize giving being written up in a Derbyshire newspaper. The Reverend Brown was basically saying to the pupils as he handed out these prizes, I hope that those who this time have failed would persevere and not give up because once beaten. In other words, don't give up at the first hurdle. Keep going. Those failures are what will make you into a worthwhile human being, etc., etc. So absolutely persevere, persevere. If at first you don't succeed, try. Oh, for goodness sakes, this is exhausting. Now, actually, talking about old newspaper clippings, I've got a brilliant poem, which is actually headed Perseverance by a child called Hilda. And it comes from a very old newspaper, well, 1923, actually, in this case. And I'm going to end with that. So stick with me. Hilda, brilliant work. She clearly persevered with her poetry making. But I also have a more up-to-date reference that I've been looking at, which is an interesting book, which you might consider looking at yourself, called Grit by Angela Duckworth. And she's an American academic and a psychologist. And she's the author of this book, Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. So she's now brought this word passion into the mix. But she also says that passion and perseverance, while very close, are not the same thing. So that's another little bit of this jigsaw puzzle when we're trying to make this decision, persevere or give up. And she also says something, I suppose, that aligns with the idea of laziness, because she says to be gritty is to resist complacency. So that's another term, isn't it? Complacent. Are we needing to zhuzh ourselves up a bit? Is that all we need? Is that what will make us persevere and not walk away? Have we just become complacent and therefore do we need to completely change our course of action? Is it too comfortable? You see all these questions? I love it. But can we be analytical about this when we're trying to explore perseverance or walking away? Well, Angela Duckworth also says this. Often, our passion and perseverance do not spring from a cold, calculating analysis of costs and benefits of alternatives. Rather, the source of our strength is the person we know ourselves to be. She's talking about our identity as being part of the ingredients of whether we choose to persevere or not. And that, I think, is really, really key. Because, and it really fits with a lot of the messages that I've been given over the years about self-squashing. If we're persevering with something that isn't really totally attuned with who we really feel we are, in that kind of gut thing that we get when we feel most aligned, most congruent, if you like. If we're trying to pursue something just because, something maybe we set a goal for years and years ago, but we've changed, the world has changed, we've learnt new things. If we're just carrying on and it's not quite right with who we see ourselves as, that could be a red flag? And yes, I said we'd explore this in kind of green flag, red flag ways. So here we go. Now you can apply this to decisions you're trying to make about work, about career, about possible promotion, about possible taking redundancy, setting up on your own. It could be that you already are a small business owner and you're trying to figure out whether you're pursuing a sort of course of your branding, of your message, of your audience, of your services that isn't necessarily quite working. Do you pursue it more? Do you persevere? Do you give up? It could be relationships. Now, I don't want to get too heavy about this because I'm not here to give relationship advice, although I have experience. But it could be that you are pursuing, I don't know, a certain network of people just because, and it's beginning to feel like it's not really doing you much good. It's not who you are anymore somehow. It could be obviously more serious. It could be an actual relationship with a marriage or a partner, whatever, but you're just in that awful limbo state. Do I persevere with this, or do I walk away? Or it could be goals. We are really, really bombarded with this idea that we need to have goals. We need to pursue our passion. We need to have a vision of where we're headed. And I'm not saying that all of that is wrong. The last episode of this podcast had a lot of really good, wise insights in it. And a lot of that was about visualization, about setting your goals. But I also know that you can get stuck in that sort of goal mindset. And if you're beginning to feel a bit uncomfortable, a bit like it's a sort of duty, a bit like you're more kind of surviving rather than thriving as you pursue this goal, is it because you're just being lazy and giving up too easily, can't be bothered? Is it because you've not yet unlocked certain skills that you need to be able to pursue this to the next level? Or is it because really, when you set that goal, you don't really know why you set it? Something your parents had said when you were a kid, something a teacher said when you were at school, something a boss once said to you, something an ex-partner once said, something you read in a book, something you heard on a podcast. But actually, why? Why are you still pursuing this goal? And that could be a moment where you could feel really positive about ditching or switching up that goal. Don't you think? I do. So we should first define the terms, I guess. Persist or walk away, persevere or give up. So I think that already you've got a sense of one is good and one is bad. And that we need to stop right away. That's just language. That's just societal norms, etc., isn't it? But actually, persistence, perseverance, which is sort of slightly the same, but not quite. But that general bucket of that side of the equation could also say, wait for it, stubborn. See, that's not quite so positive, is it? Blinkered, in a rut, doing what other people are telling you to do. Yeah. And what about the other side? If we look at it as a positive. So instead of thinking give up, walk away is negative, it could also mean the courage to change direction, the insight to realize the course you're on is not any longer for you, the wisdom to not fall for the trap of worrying about the fallacy of sunk costs. What do I mean by that? I'm sure you've heard that term. It basically means that you've put so much effort into something over such a long period of time that you just don't think you can walk away from it. You have to keep going. You have to. You've put money into this. You've put blood, sweat, and tears into it. You've given up other things because of pursuing this. You've gone on various courses. You've got various qualifications. So how on earth could you walk away? Well, sometimes you just have to look at all of that as fabulous experience of an accumulation of so much wisdom and insight, and then be able to pack it up and chuck it. I don't know whether this is the same when it comes to decluttering. Because I actually am quite unsentimental when it comes to turning out old stuff, much more so than the person I live with, in fact. But we make a good pair because he does sometimes stop me from chucking too much stuff out that I then regret later. But I can see that sometimes this is no longer where I'm at. This is no longer what I want to do. Yes, I got all those leaflets printed once back in the 90s. People don't do that anymore. Yes, all those business cards are going to have to go in the bin. And yes, that YouTube channel I set up is no longer relevant, but that's fine. It was a journey. I learned lots on it, but it's not. Now, maybe this is it. No longer is it me. We talked about that kind of sense of identity when you're making this decision. And no longer do I feel motivated. So when I'm doing this, I feel I'm just doing it for the sake of. For the sake of. Plod, 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 plod. Mustn't give up. Oh, I suppose I should. Or even, what alternative is there? If I give up on this, maybe there's nothing else out there for me. If I give up on this, that makes me the kind of person who gives up too easily. All those little naggy thoughts come into your head. But no, I believe firmly that there is a real positive to seeing the possibility in walking away from. And that doesn't have to be you being lazy, you being weak, and all those things that I quoted from those old newspapers. So there's a tipping point almost, isn't there? There's no point in giving up too easily, because you do have to pursue things to really figure out whether this is the right course of action. And in many ways, it's a luxury that I'm talking about, because you might not be in a position of having a choice, but at least you can maybe start to just switch things up a little bit, step by step, if you feel that you're seeing these red flags in the course you're taking, the job you're in, the relationship you're in. But I mean, I do have that luxury because I am at the other end of life. I am officially one of those really annoying baby boomer pensioner people. So I have this amazing luxury of being able to know that I can just sort of stop doing something if it no longer motivates me. And I can find something else that does motivate me. But I also know that I have in the past too easily given up on something. And that hasn't been a positive giving up. That's been a, oh, no, don't like this. I don't like this today. But actually, if I'd pursued it for another month, maybe I would have done. Or the same potentially with people, friends, hobbies, all sorts. But that means that there's a sort of tipping point, isn't there, between giving something a really good go and then realizing, no, this isn't quite right for me. Yeah. Watch for the tipping point. I remember, here's a little story. Okay, I went to art school. Well, it was the sort of foundation year of art school. This was back in the 70s. It was so cool, man. We all smoked roll-ups and wore flares and everything. So the idea appealed, art school, why wouldn't it? And I was there on, I think, day one, having done really well at art at A level. So I thought, I'm quite good at this. Now, of course, I'm a tiny little fish in a huge pond of very big fish. But anyway, the first task was we had this giant piece of paper pinned to a wall. We all had one, giant, and we had a little leaf, and we had to draw this leaf, but in a giant blown up way on this piece. Oh, whatever. Anyway, I did it quite well, but that kind of already was making me feel out of sorts. I was surrounded by all sorts of people. Were they all just being a bit pretentious? Well, I don't know why. Why are we doing this? I'm not that interested in this leaf. And then it kind of got worse from there. And there were people doing these very crazy bits of art that the tutors loved. And I just wanted to do figure drawing and things like that. And I don't know, I did feel that people were being a bit pretentious. And at the time, that was one of my kind of nerve-ending trigger things. I don't want to be pretentious. I'm sure I was in many ways, but I just had this fear of being pretentious, and I wanted to be pure to myself and all that. Anyway, I walked away. I walked away after about a term and a half. Now, I think I could have pursued that more. I could have persevered. I was too quick, I think, to walk away. But that's the benefit of hindsight, isn't it? Yeah. So who knows? My life would have taken a whole different avenue, sliding doors and all that, and I wouldn't even be here probably speaking to you now. So let's not dwell on the past too much. But I do know that there is a tipping point. I do know that. So what do we conclude from all this? I think that it's a matter of, number one, making sure you're not falling into the trap of the negative association with giving up or walking away. And you're not falling into the trap of the positive association of perseverance or persisting, as in, yes, that's what we have to do at all costs. We are useless human beings if we don't persevere. Both of those are traps. They have elements about them which might well be relevant, but if you just blinkered go down those avenues, you're going to have all what I call the fibs that hold us back looming at you, the fears, the illusions, and the baggage stuff. So clear the table, put this out on the forensics table. That's another kind of table. And stop doing metaphors, Tricia. Yes, just clear your thoughts of any of your preconceived ideas about perseverance, persistence, giving up, walking away. And now just establish the simple stuff. Where are the red flags? Where are the green flags? Why am I persevering? Why am I walking away or considering it? And don't overcomplicate this. If your reasons for walking away are that you have compared yourself to other people and you think that you want to be like them and you're not, and so you might as well give up, that doesn't sound like a good reason. If you are walking away because you have not achieved your goal after a year, potentially you haven't given it long enough. But what are your feelings on that? If you're walking away because you can't do an aspect of something, is it just a simple thing of trying to get more skilled at that, asking for help potentially even? Who'd have thought? But if you are walking away because you absolutely have given it your best, but you realize that you've changed, something doesn't feel right, this is no longer the direction you want to be heading in, and you don't need to worry about what you've put into this so far, because actually that's going to be useful in all sorts of ways. And so instead of cluttering your brain full of the sense of I've got to, you can open up some space for much more exploratory thought around those new avenues that you're considering. So, have I answered my own question? Do I continue with this podcast in its current format? Do I do a new podcast? Do I not do any podcasts at all? I don't know, because I haven't quite done enough work on it. I've got green flags and red flags fluttering, and I haven't yet sorted them out. So I'm not going to make a drastic decision. I would absolutely love your help, by the way. Yeah. Comments below. Or just make contact with me wherever you are connected. And let's actually get your ideas. Should I continue? Should I walk away in a positive manner? Yeah, I'll leave that one with you. But now let me end with this beautiful poem by Hilda. Here we go. Perseverance by Hilda Mark of Middlesbrough. I don't know how old she was, but this is in the Northern Weekly Gazette, 1923, under a whole page entitled Children's Circle, conducted by Daddy. That sounds a bit weird, but anyway, let's just continue. 1923. Ah, Hilda, so wise. Perseverance. If perchance your task be irksome, and the aspect dismal too, do not give up hope of winning, then you surely will pull through. Stand your ground and make the best use of the gifts that you possess, for no victory's worth winning if to win is it caused no stress. There's a saying, and a true one, that the things we mostly prize are the fruits of toil and labour, with the task of no small size. Let it be your motto always to put up a fight that's square, and you'll land on terra firma with your troubles in the air. Oh, Hilda. Hilda. It's quite inspirational. Anyway, I'll leave it with you for now. I won't walk away from this. My book, The Mystery of the Squash Self, How to Stop Self-Sabotaging and Make Your Business Thrive by Tricia Lewis. That's me. I'm very proud of it, that, and also my TEDx talk, Beware the Self-Squashing Prophecy. Go over to tricialewis.com, because I haven't yet walked away from my website either. Till the next time. Ooh, mysterious. Stay curious. Unsquashed. Persist or walk away? That is the question.